Dinesh D'Souza's newest film is titled The Dragon's Prophecy and explores the biblical history of the Israel-Palestine conflict. It aims to connect the ancient narrative with today's realities and was filmed in turbulent areas. D'Souza even described going into a war zone to produce the movie. The documentary goes into whether the Israel-Palestine conflict represents a revival of an ancient biblical conflict. D'Souza promises that the film will shake the left and the right. It frames the October 7th terrorist attacks in Israel as a modern echo of ancient biblical conflicts, notably those between the Israelites and the Philistines. It suggests that there's contemporary events that we are seeing that are not isolated geopolitical incidents, but are unfolding according to an age-old prophetic pattern. The narrative goes further, suggesting we may be witnessing an end-of-times prophecy coming to life, describing the conflict as part of a larger spiritual struggle involving the destiny of nations and humanity itself. Here to tell us about his new film, The Dragon's Prophecy, author and filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza. Good to see you, Dinesh. How will people feel about this Israel-Palestine conflict that they're seeing unfold today after they see your film?
Well, the conflict today is trapped, I would say, in a certain type of discourse in which you have familiar and really tired slogans on both sides, right? From the left, we keep hearing about colonialism. We hear chants of genocide. We hear Israel is our only best friend. This film steers clear of most of that kind of rhetoric. It tries to lift the debate. Now, first of all, it's on the scene. I mean, Matt, I went into a war zone to make this film, and I have interviews on the Gaza border where you can hear bombs going off, machine gun fire. It's all in the movie. I'm at the site of the Nova Festival. I interview survivors of October 7th. And we have October 7th footage that has never been seen before. In fact, we have to put a little bit of a graphic warning, not because we use the most sort of gruesome footage, but because we actually put you there so that you can't understand any of this, just like you can't understand, you know, the Japanese war in World War II without understanding Pearl Harbor, right? That was the provocation that led to everything else. And similarly, October 7th, I think, is an event of historic, and I would say even of, to some degree, biblical significance. And this is a bit of a new angle in the movie. We sort of look at the clash between Israel and the Palestinians through the lens of some ancient conflicts between the Israelites and some of their classic enemies right out of the Bible, people like the Philistines, but also others.
Tell us about some of the folks you spoke with and what message they wanted to convey.
I have a one-on-one with Netanyahu, and now I did 45 minutes with him, and I'm going to do that as a special podcast, but there's about 5 minutes of him in the movie. But it's really Netanyahu as you've never seen him before. I mean, he's animated, he's sarcastic, he talks about his views of Jesus. Normally, Netanyahu is a very polished and clipped politician who sort of comes in with a rehearsed, here's what I'm going to say, but that's not the Netanyahu you see in this film. The U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee is in it. Eric Stakelbeck, who's been an on-the-ground reporter covering radical Islam for a long time. The scholar and commentator Eric Metaxas talks about biblical archaeology, but we also take you to some of these archaeological sites. Why? Because in the end, part of what this debate is about is like, whose land is it really? And I think the Jews have the claim here to being, in a sense, the original inhabitants, the aboriginal inhabitants, if you want to say, of that land, because they were there going back 4,000 years.
Yeah, I wonder how that elevates the debate. If Native Americans showed up in the United States and said, we can prove that we were here 4,000 years ago, would that really elevate the debate about the rights of Native Americans today with tax-free cigarettes and casinos?
Well, what I would say, Matt, is this. You can get a country, if you look at the borders of countries around the world and how they got their land one of three ways. The first way is by being there all the time, right? By being there first. How did the Indians get India? Well, they've been there as far as we know. So original inhabitancy is one claim. The second claim is you get a country through negotiation. Someone kind of negotiates it out, like the UN basically decides after 1948, okay, we're going to have Israel, Palestine, we're going to partition it. And the third way is by conquest. So in the case of America, you have a dispute, right? Because the Native Americans were here first. They have the original inhabitants card, but then you could say that they were having wars against each other, taking each other's land, and the white man came and took it from them.